Estacada City Council meeting. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have roll call, please, Cindy.
Counselor Hughes. Here. Counselor Lidkey.
Here.
Counselor McElroy.
Here.
Counselor Prokop. Here. Counselor Strobel. Counselor Tenbush.
Here.
Mayor Drinkline.
Here. Thank you very much. Before we get started here, I want us to take a few minutes and understand that there's a lot of people here tonight, more than I've ever seen in this council chambers, and I've been here a while. I can appreciate why you're all here and the reason you want to speak. But I ask that we be friendly to one another, keep it in general, nice, be nice to each other, let everybody have a chance to speak. We've extended the period in which to speak to give everybody a chance to put their comments forward. This is a very hot topic, and I know. But that said, we'll get started. So I'm going to start off with the first. At the citizen and community group comment, I have several, so it's going to take me a minute to read through all these. I've got Tom Thompson. Oh, yeah, not a problem. We're always about the bet, so let's bring him up first then. You betcha. What's the name on that one? Shane? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And we are going to stick with the 3 minutes per person because we'd like to get through as many people as possible. If it doesn't take you 3 minutes, that's great. We'll just go on to the next person. And we're going to do, usually the counselor will say you can do 30 minutes at the beginning and 30 minutes at the end of public comment, but we're going to move 20 minutes of that from the end up to the beginning. So we'd have 50 minutes. And that way there's still a little bit at the end in case anybody was saving their comments for the end. But so that's the plan. Thanks for your cooperation.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Shane Harris. I live in off of Northeast Alderwood. I've been a private security for over 3 years in the Portland area, from Molalla out to Hillsborough, Troutdale, and St. John's. I've been site supervisor and ran over 20 personal sites myself. Every single site I had or worked at, including high profile, is OHSU, Boeing of Portland, the federal building on 9th and Holiday, and Bonneville Power, which are armed sites. We had two things in common: homelessness and drugs. Anytime a homeless camp was allowed to set up, first day there would be a couple. By the end of the week, we could have 15 to 20. These are people coming out from other communities that they hear we have a safe spot, and or amenities such as outhouses. I've had sites had outhouses removed for the officers because of the damage and drugs, needles, paraphernalia that's inside. Sorry, I'm in a lot of pain. I ran the OHSU site for COVID testing at Expo. They would not put private outhouses for the staff unless we had 24-hour security, because they had to remove the outhouses at the TriMet Center because of the drug paraphernalia that was damaging equipment. How disgusting these things are. Your other problem is if you put it out here, anybody under the influence, I've had to remove bodies or call the police for people wandering into Highway 30 off of Ecology area. It's going to happen. I guarantee it. Those are the two things we always had. For local individual shops, we've had to call police to break into bathrooms and stores because they went in there, locked themselves in, flooded the bathrooms to take their showers, or overdosed. And this is coming from years of experience with it. Every site had those two things in common. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Okay, next I have Tom Thompson.
All right. My name's Tom Thompson and I have a small business in town. And I struggle already being over here in the corner. I'm the only one over here by myself. There's no other businesses around me. I have had numerous problems since the day I opened 2 years ago. I deal with it on a daily basis and they don't even live there in the parking lot yet. You put that out there you will put me under. Because no one's going to want to come to my facility with having that out there. I empathize with everything that's going on and where they need to be sanctioned at. That's the wrong place. The right place is Timber Park, where they can have a little bit of dignity. They can still get to the other side of the road, get to the services and the things that they need over there, Meals on Wheels and things like that. And they got bathrooms over there. You can bring RVs. They got dump out stations. You can give them vouchers for having free dump out to help them through all their problems. And they can get to the needs that they really need. I hope that you can see what I'm talking about and want to help these people and be a real human. Give them a little bit of dignity, but give us all some dignity. And don't have that in the middle of our town. We struggle as it is. We're a tourist place and no one wants to see that. And they don't want to be out in the middle as a, what do you want to call it? Just on Front Street and have to be humiliated. Do you want to live like that? I wouldn't want to live like that. And I hope you can take that into consideration of where you place these people. Because I do empathize with the needs that they need to be done. But you guys are the ones that need to make that happen.
Thank you. Hey, Jim Moriarty.
All right, good evening. My name is Jim Moriarty and welcome everyone. Great to see everyone out here participating in your city government. Let's see, in regards to last couple of weeks, we've talked about locations. Just wanted to bring up 2 points. If we put it in Timber Park, we need to know that PG&E is having events at the park. American Legion Cruise In, there's going to be some businesses, they're going to hold some functions there in July and August. The American Legion's already paid for all the areas, picnic areas, the soccer field, the East Field, everywhere, porta potties. We had to spend over $400 in permits, which we don't mind paying. But as been said before, at one of the city council meetings, you pull into the portal. How good would that look? We're trying to put on a family-friendly event. We have local vendors, we have food. We're just trying to make sure we're going to have probably over 2,000, 3,000 people attending. We just want to make sure it's safe for everybody in town. Second point, here the fire department parking lot, farmers market here till September. What are we going to do? Have the city employees clean up every week? I just think it's a waste of resources. My opinion only. And also the city is going to have a national night out, which promotes community and law enforcement. So bad decision. Thank you.
Okay, Rebecca Boyle.
I have questions more than anything, because I'm not really clear where people would be camping. Have you actually posted that, where the locations would be that are publicly owned or rather city owned?
Well, not at this point. We have not. No, but the 2 choices that we've been talking about were the fire department in the front parking lot that the city has just built in the front end. The other is the portal over by Timber Park.
Okay,
That's-
and then would there be porta potties supplied if it's?
At the portal, there are already bathrooms there, but I'm not sure at the fire department, would they provide?
We have the restroom that's here at City Hall and outside.
There's no plan to provide porta
No.
potties.
Okay, so there's a lot, the way that I saw the proposed ordinance, and I just found it to be very loosely written and leave a lot of, areas for abuse of the system. So concerns are you have a fine of not more than $125, but you don't have a not less than. So what you will have is judges in Oregon are not already, they're not prosecuting. The DAs are not prosecuting, so people are going to pay. That's basically you're saying no fine. You also don't mention anything about following all the other ordinances in the city. And I'm curious, if I camp on or if I'm on city property, can I use controlled substances legally here? Or is there an ordinance which says that's a violation of city law to use controlled substances?
Good question. I think I'll hand this one to Peter. Peter, can you,
Yeah, so if people are committing a crime in addition to sleeping, then they can be cited for the crime. What we have been told is that we can't criminalize being homeless. So if someone were to drive a stolen car and then sleep in it, then they can get arrested for stealing the car. If they have an illegal weapon or if they have illegal materials, they can be cited for that too. But what we can't criminalize them for is their status of being homeless. And if we have a area in the city where it is allowed for a certain number of hours, ours is 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. That means at 7 a.m. they would have to be packed and left. That allows us to prohibit it in every other city-owned property, in city sidewalks, in residential zones, and in all those places. So the guidance from the case law, as well as I understand it, the directives from the county council to the sheriff's deputies that are in all the cities that the county polices, which are Wilsonville, Happy Valley, us, the unincorporated areas, is if there is a ordinance in place that doesn't prohibit it everywhere in the city, that then in areas of the city where it is prohibited, the sheriff's officers can move the people, cite the people, tell the people they're not allowed to sleep there. But if it's a citywide prohibition, then it prevents them from regulating it anywhere. So I know that, first of all, I would say that, and I've written these for a number of cities, your ordinances is as restrictive as any ordinance in the state that I'm aware of. And we can give you examples for that. So I pulled Wilsonville, which the county council's office described as what, the gold standard. They said it was gold standard. It allows things like wooden shelters, shacks, leans to.
no outbursts, please. You'll get it. Did you put one of these in? Because I want to give you the chance to speak.
If they engage in illegal behavior,
Yeah,
they
I
can be
know, and
cited.
we're gonna get to that. Trust me here. Let's
Yep.
just.
All right, let's let her finish.
Okay.
If they
so-
break the law, they can be cited.
Okay, so when, we've decriminalized drugs in Oregon, but the federal government has not. So are we following the state of Oregon or the federal laws considering controlled substances? Because does the city have an ordinance that prevents people from using drugs on city property?
We do not, but I know.
So maybe we
Maybe in
need one
parks,
Well, parks.
alcohol and
with a permit,
Yeah.
Use of controlled substances with a permit. And you also spoke of other cities' ordinances. Well, here, I'm going to submit one for you, and it's Roseburg. And Roseburg has made some pretty tight rules. For instance, the tent area that needs to be moved so many feet, you have to contain all of your belongings except for maybe a wheelchair or a mobility device outside of it, so that you don't have a spread out like they do on China Creek Road and Bend and in Portland, where it's just spread from all over the place. So that's all I have. Thank you.
William Brown.
Good evening. My name is William Brown. I've learned a lot of things by coming to these meetings. One is to have a notebook of what you want to say so you don't get lost. And two is to speak quickly. So first of all, I understand that this is a done deal. This is a state law. We have to implement something or we will be fined. We will be found in violation. So we have to make some sort of a camping area. I propose that you make that camping area right out in front, as small and as restrictive as possible, so that people will not hop the 30 bus to come out here because this is a piece of cake to live in. Make it as unfriendly as possible so that we will not attract more than we have. The 5 identified homeless people in this town, we should take care of them and make them feel dignified and everything. But anyone else coming out here for a free ride, make it miserable. Second of all, I think, is there an hours limit? I have heard the proposal of 9 to 7. Why not 10 to 7? You know, that's still more than 8 hours to sleep. That's 11, or that's 9 hours. Second of all, implement an absolute no drug policy, no noise, no fires, no cooking. You know, so 10 o'clock, that's your noise ordinance comes into effect, 10 to 7, I believe. So enforce that strictly. If they don't abide by it, get them out. Okay, who's going to do the cleanup? Are our city guys going to do the cleanup? Are they going to get hazard pay for dealing with needles and feces? Second of all, or once again, do we have to clean it up? Are you going to put cameras on this area to make sure that people are coming and going? And if they come in at 10, can we restrict it so that they cannot leave? They can't leave until the morning, because we don't want them coming in at 10, setting up their camps and going out, stealing everything all night long and then taking off, because that's what they're going to do. Okay, should we also record and run the license plates of every vehicle that comes in to make sure that it's not stolen? If it is stolen, they're out. They're arrested and out. Okay, make sure that the licenses are legal and the vehicles have insurance, because if they don't have insurance, then they're already breaking the law and they shouldn't even be here. Okay, if there's children involved, what are we going to do about having maybe have the children referred to DHS for safety and, you know, safety issues? Because if you're living homeless with children, there's got to be a better option. I'm not trying to sound cruel here or nothing, but the people that are homeless are not homeless because they don't have anywhere to live. They're homeless because they're drug addicts. They're drug addicts and they're thieves. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan Winthrop.
Hi, I'm Jordan Winthrop. What brought me to this meeting was I watched the YouTube version of your last meeting, and one of you up there, I wasn't actually watching it, I was just listening to it, said something along the lines of, good deals are only made when no one is happy. And I'm really, really hoping that this is not one of those situations where no one is happy. And I believe it could have been something that Joel said, it might have been along those lines, and it had something unrelated to this completely, but that mindset should not be in this council chambers, because I don't believe that that is true. I believe you can make everybody happy with a deal as long as you try and get everybody's input. But now I'm here and I've got 2 more minutes. I would like to say, I own a building that's downtown right on Broadway. And there was a time when I was actually sleeping in it, and I was told I couldn't because it was against city ordinance that you're not allowed to sleep in downtown buildings. And that was my own building that I owned, that I was told I was not allowed to sleep in. So I'm wondering how a city ordinance would limit me from sleeping in a building I own and letting other people just sleep on city property. So that's one thing that just popped in my mind here. Another thing is I was on Park and Recs many years ago, and we had a hard time keeping the restrooms open at the parks. They were closed over and over and over again from vandalization. And most of the time it was due to homeless. And many times people actually barricaded themselves into the restrooms, and no one could ever get in there to see who was in there. They just knew someone had barricaded themselves in there for days and were sleeping in there. Finally, the city staff had to hire more park employees so they could actually manage the restrooms, clean them up, and make it useful. But still, it did not work. When I was at the park with my 1-year-old daughter, we went and we tried to use the restroom, and she ended up peeing her pants because the restrooms were closed, and we were told it was because there's just no way to keep the homeless out of the restrooms, and the park's restrooms had to be closed at that time. So that was not happy. She actually came to the city council meeting and said, why did you guys make me pee my pants by closing the restrooms? So it's, yeah, so also you guys are doing this because of like some Supreme Court or something. We all know Supreme Courts can be overturned. So why rush to decisions and try to make huge changes when a Supreme Court can be like, they can be wrong. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Jordan. Hey, Jordan. Thank you for bringing that up. Just for the context, that was between a deal that was going to affect two different parties, and we were making a decision for an ordinance on it. So that's what that was referring to, but I do agree with your statements.
Keenan Boyle.
Yeah, I'm in commercial real estate and I would just say start with, when you do this, you need to hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And in my job, I interface a lot with different police agencies because of the different properties we manage and stuff are in Beaverton, Hillsborough, Clackamas, et cetera. And I've been told by just about every police officer I've interfaced with that the word homelessness is a symptom. And the people that we want to call homeless, over 90% of them are either drug addicted, mentally ill, or a combination of both. So I would strongly advise that you plan for the worst. My wife, Rebecca, both her and I actually read parts of the Roseburg ordinance on this. I think it's like 140 pages long. And it's extremely restrictive. And I would strongly suggest you make it as restrictive as possible. So as the one gentleman said, that people that don't get the word out, hey, Estacada is an easy place to live. They don't enforce this. Let's just go out there and we'll have a heyday. And reading through this briefly, there's a lot of vague terms. For example, under camping on city property, talks about you can maintain essentials for a living. What does essentials mean? And then it goes on, it says, unless the storage of said is essential for living while camping. Again, vague. Who determines that? It's on down on number N, it says 24 hours, then they must relocate. What does relocate mean? I mean, I've literally had people, we've told them to relocate and they moved their camp 3 feet, claiming they've relocated. Vague. And again, my wife brought this up too, that if you're going to have a fine, there should be a minimum that the judge can't overrule. And then I would also say that if the person is acting under this and staying here in Estacada, if they are convicted of drugs or you convict them of drugs, they're excluded. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. That's pretty much all I have to say. Again, I'm just going to say, hope for the best, plan for the worst. And right now, we're not there.
Thank you. Wally Kanza.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wally Kanza. Want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to maybe get my 2 cents in, or 3 minutes. Probably going to be less than that, since mostly everything I've heard here tonight, I'm in agreement with. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with what's going on. I'm disappointed with our city government because they've had time to deal with these issues. More than sufficient time. They've kicked the can down the road, and here we are tonight. Shouldn't have been that way. We shouldn't even have a vote to determine where we're going to put these people. I've never had the opportunity to meet the lawyer. My question to him, I don't expect an answer. Does he live in Estacada? Is he hired by our government to help protect the people in this town? It just sounds like, well, we're just going to go ahead and comply. That's a word that it's easy to throw out there. I'm sorry it's come to this. I'm really disappointed. I love this town and I want to see this town protected. We don't have the law enforcement to enforce what we got going on already in town, let alone what's going to happen when we have who knows how many people. This ordinance, I read into it, very vague. There's nothing that says we are only going to accept so many people here. The only other comment that I have, not going to say any names, but for those that vote that want this camping ordinance passed, we'll send them their way to camp.
Thomas McKinney?
Both of them.
Oh, sorry, but
You didn't butcher any worse than anything. All right, Thomas McEnany, not a citizen of the city, but have a city address. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to deviate a little bit from what other people have been talking about and go into some facts from the last meeting I took away from here that I needed to do some research. And some of the research that I found was astounding, absolutely astounding. Take Portland, for instance, Mayor, you mentioned Portland. Portland is a hole. Now, I grew up until I was 12 years old in Portland. I could walk down any street late at night, never had to worry. Try doing that now. Came across some facts about California. California has spent $10 billion of taxpayer money and have done nothing to control or even have any effect on the homeless population. Now they want to start taking buildings down in San Francisco because they're losing all the businesses in San Francisco. That will happen here. And now they're saying that it's going to cost $386,000 per unit for homeless units. Now they want to make all the buildings downtown San Francisco into homeless units. Taxpayer dollars, $386,000 per unit. You talk about the San Francisco. One other city I saw come into the play, I sat and watched a 10-minute video of Bostonians being interviewed. The one main subject that they were talking about was unlivable. Completely unlivable. Can't take your kids outside. Saw in the video somebody lying dead in the street with a busload of children driving by. Do we want that for our community? No, we do not want that for our community. So this has to be considered completely for all people in concern. And if it is going to be implemented, veterans need to be rooted out, treated far better than anybody else, because the recompense that they have been dealt for trying to protect this country and putting themselves in harm's way and then living on the street is incomprehensible, absolutely incomprehensible. So if you're going to put anybody up, vets first and foremost. Thank you.
thank you. Randy Licky.
Okay, I have a lot to say. So excuse me if my thoughts are a little jumbled. I'm here every city council meeting. Obviously, my husband's up there and I care a lot about our city. One thing I'd like to say is what you guys are reading that has been handed out to you is the state law that they're going off of, not the city ordinance, just to make that clear. I heard a little bit of confusion there. The state law is very ambiguous. It's very confusing. There's a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of room for interpretation. And I think a lot of that is going on here, and a lot of that's going on in our other cities in the state. And honestly, I see that there's been saying that those who don't want this are inhumane. I think it's inhumane to plot people on a pavement and say, here you go, have fun for these hours, but we're not going to do actually anything to help you. I don't think you have to say yes to this. I think you could stand up and say no to this. And I've heard some of you up there say that. I hope you're brave enough tonight to say, you know what? Our city doesn't need this, and we're willing to fight the state on this and say no.
John Nieder.
Okay, bear with me. I read slow. I have terrible time with my eyes. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, now. It just looks like looks like I've been showing off here. Anyway,
That's the way to lead.
yeah. Yeah, get everybody's attention first. Okay, it's all well and good to, for our state legislators to sit in their granite and marble halls in Salem and make laws. I'm sorry, this is terrible.
Would you like somebody to read it for you? Could somebody come up and read it for you? Would that be okay?
That would be great,
Yeah, not a problem.
because I've had other people read it and it times out at 3 minutes, but with me, it takes a pop.
Oh, it's okay, John.
Okay, I'll read it
Yeah.
for you, but you gotta stay up here with
Okay.
me. Okay, this is John Nieder's voice, not mine, just so you know.
Don't believe it.
It's all well and good for our state legislators to sit in their granite and marble halls in Salem and make laws, but when those laws have negative monetary and quality of life impacts on tax-paying citizens, then the citizens have the right and duty to protest and demand that the state compensate and make whole any monetary cost or negative impact caused by the laws they pass. My questions are, why do you propose the fire department parking lot for a homeless campsite? And if not there, then the following also applies to any other site. How are residents and visitors going to use their public property for the intended purpose if it is filled with homeless tents and garbage? Who's going to maintain the area and who's paying them? Who's going to clean up the garbage and the needles? Are you providing a dumpster? Who pays for the cleanup and the dumpster? Will occupancy hours be limited like 2,100 hours to 600 hours? And who enforces it? How can the state enact a law that will produce a financial burden on a town outside of public safety and not provide finances to pay for it? Are you going to provide a porta potty? And if so, who's paying for it? If not, who's cleaning up the human waste and who's paying for that? Do you really want tourists and other visitors to be welcomed to our town by the site of a homeless camp? Do you want to mark the beauty of Estacada with this makeshift tarp tents and garbage? Is this the image we are trying to present? Do you think it's right to make the residents of Estacada foot the bill for poor choices others have made? And I include the state in the poor choices of others for passing this legislation. My suggestions are tell the state that when they pony up the money, the town will provide the place. And until then, no further action be taken. I suggest that when encountered, the homeless be sent or transported to a location that has the resources, facilities, and ability to handle their problems. Or send them to MacIver Park. It's a state facility. The state created the problem. Let them bear the responsibility. If the homeless were responsible citizens, there would be no problem because they would clean up after themselves, wouldn't use drugs, wouldn't be involved in criminal activity, and would not be an ugly eyesore on our beautiful community. But then if they were responsible, dang it. I almost got through it.
What do you think? That was good.
I had a lot more good things.
John McAdoo.
Put that back in place for you.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, city manager, thank you for this time. I'm going to be real quick because most everything's been talked about that I had on my notes. But this problem that we have of homeless throughout the United States, and especially here in Oregon, is a government caused problem. Years ago, they started relaxing laws, drug laws, started giving people a lot of free stuff that they didn't have an incentive to go to work. And I believe, my personal opinion, city of Portland, Salem, Eugene, the big cities are overwhelmed. So they come up with this idea to push the problem out of their big cities and push it out on these little communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Joan Betty, I think it's the name on it. Beatty, sorry. Sorry.
John Beatty, thank you, Mayor Drinkwine. I like the shirt that the gentleman who spoke earlier was wearing that says, "This ends when we all say no." We need to not invite homeless people here. If we invite a few, there will be a flood of people that follow. It's a slippery slope. And one step into it, it's a long way down and no coming back up. A question that the city attorney may be able to answer about the issue of having limited hours for people to sleep that are confined to the nighttime. What happens when somebody comes and says, I have a nighttime job and I need to sleep during the day? Are we then going to have to accommodate them? I ask this just to illustrate how much of a slippery slope this is. If we open the door, they're just all going to come through. You give them an inch. You give these woke legislatures and woke judges an inch, they're going to take a mile and much more. Someone needs to say no. Why not Estacada? I appealed Mayor Drinkwine to form a coalition of other communities in Oregon who are not going to bend over and allow this ridiculous law to bring ruin to and chaos to our communities.
We the people.
Hey, Serena Wheatley. Yeah. Serena Wheat. Serena? Or Sarah, sorry. Oh, okay, all right. Well, yeah, see, I'm trying to include the whole family.
My name is Sarah Welton. A lot of things that I had on my list have already been said. But I spent a lot of time looking at the House bill and exactly what the wording was. Nothing is clear. Words like near, what is that? How many feet is that? If I'm a registered sex offender, I have a certain amount of feet that I have to stay away from schools. It just says, don't be near a school. What does that mean? We are Clackamas County, and above that, we are Estacada. We fought hard during COVID. What makes this situation any different? I care for these people, that we all live together. We are a strong community. And there are people here that are homeless that need resources, and we're struggling to provide them. Another question I have that is kind of to the side is, we have services, things like Ant Farm that has moved into our town, who has resources, money. Where are they in all of this? They have the experience that we don't have dealing with this. But I do say our lawyer isn't working for us. But
Lane Jensen.
Good evening, Mayor Drinkwine, council members. My name is Lane Jensen. I run an online radio station called West Coast Radio. You may have heard my voice coverage for the football team here in Estacada play-by-play. I'm here tonight to oppose resolution 2023-005. I recently moved to downtown Estacada from Fairview, where the homeless population is already growing out of control. Multiple times a day while I was working from home, I witnessed the homeless pick up garbage, look through the windows of my personal vehicle to try to steal stuff multiple times a day. I did not feel safe in Fairview or any of the surrounding areas in East Multnomah County anymore. During COVID, I was a food delivery driver and witnessed the homeless population surge from downtown Portland to Beaverton and into Gresham. Many times I did not even feel safe going to downtown Portland to pick up a food order or delivery order and had to take my wife with me armed with a pocket knife to make sure my vehicle was safe. Okay. During my time around Portland, I saw the homeless camps on city streets everywhere. There were times I even had to walk in the street due to safety risks of walking in front of the campsite. Countless motorhomes lined the streets and neighborhoods of Portland and Gresham with no end in sight. While working at the Gresham post office last year as a letter carrier, I saw the same thing, homeless camps everywhere. There were even homeless people begging for money on federal property at the post office, with Gresham police telling us carriers who were there was nothing they could do because the homeless centers in Gresham were already filled up at 5:30 p.m. Allowing homeless camps in Estacada is the last thing anyone wants in this town. We do not have the resources to support additional homeless. Nobody wants Main Street littered with broken down motorhomes and SUVs with nowhere to go. I know we have a fair share of students who walk to school. How safe would it be for them to get to school with a homeless camp along their path to school? Additionally, we've seen the news how careless they are with fires, garbage, etc. The last thing we need in Estacada is another major fire started by homeless people. We need to take a stand today to show other cities that we will not put up with the decisions that city leaders in Portland, Salem, and Eugene have made, with Governor Kotek supporting them with House Bill 3115. Our motto is unexpected, untamed, unforgivable. By approving this ordinance, our new motto should be expected, tamed, and forgettable. We need to keep our city safe. Thank you.
Okay, Tammy, Becky, is that how you say it, or Beatty, sorry. I gotta read these all day and it's really hard to read some.
Hi, everyone. So I have never been to a city hall meeting or a city council meeting. I am on the DEI committee in the city of Estacada. First of all, I would like to know why the DEI, if this is something that you have been thinking about for a while, knew it was coming down the pike, why our committee was never told about this. I've never heard this. I heard this from a friend from your last meeting, and I was shocked because I'm on the committee. I should know what's going on, and I didn't. So I'm really disappointed that that wasn't brought to us last month. Second of all, you guys are great. And I love every one of you. And I support our city and all the comments that has been said. And nothing to you ladies, but I think our city needs to grow some balls.
Okay. I think it's Philip, yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mayor Drinkwine, City Council. My name is Philip Killery. I live up on Northwest Standish. I'm also a recovering social justice lawyer. And I've lived in Estacada. Seriously, I organize rallies for the Standing Rock fight against fossil fuels. Anyways, I moved out here about 4 years ago. I was here for the fires. I was here with guys that stayed when everybody else had to evacuate to protect the homes around here from looters. I didn't actually even know this was going on, but my neighbors told me about this. And another thing that I'm a recovering addict. And what I can promise you is there's no hope for the best. Expect the worst and expect the worst. That's what this is. What I know is that I was able to find recovery because I wasn't allowed to stay comfortable out doing what I was doing and out in my addiction. And what I've seen since homeless have been allowed to start camping on sidewalks and RVs and all of that, and then they decriminalize hard drugs, is that there's a whole lot of people that have been made super comfortable in their addiction. And I know firsthand that 95% of those people that are homeless they're in their addiction. That's what's going on. I know it firsthand. That have no doubt that if you bring that here, I was here when BLM came and did the organized march, and I stood with the other members of this community to say, you have every right to have your voice heard in your First Amendment, but what is not going to happen is you're not going to come to this community that stands together and start tearing stuff apart. Right. And I was here for the winter, and I was here for the fire, and I was here like Estacada strong, right? Estacada strong, isn't that what we are? So why would we listen to a lawyer who sounds like a public defender telling somebody that he should take a plea deal when you need to take it to the box? Like, we need to stand up and fight. And if our city council doesn't vote to do that, then some of the city council is going to go, and I'll run if I have to. And I'm good. Believe that.
Yeah. Jason, right over here. Get you up. I think, well, what do you got right there?
Well, this is just my note.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's you. It's you.
Oh, man, well, you know what? There's one thing that nobody brought up yet since I've been here, and that was mental illness. Most of these things are caused from mental illness, and nobody's doing anything about that at all. People, they take them to jail, they release them. Nobody's doing it because they don't want to get sued. And most of these things are caused by mental illness. Now, also, how many of these people are going to be sex offenders? Needles everywhere. I mean, people getting hurt, kids getting stabbed, or whatever. I mean, are they rapists or not, or whatever? I mean, is there going to be anybody to tell you what that's all about? Information. I love everybody in this town. Every single person in this town I love them. I even love the people that visit this town. I've probably seen everybody about 100 times, and this just because we have a place doesn't mean we have to put out a welcome mat. We don't need a welcome mat. I mean, why is that? I don't know if anybody's seen the commercials recently. It was come to Estacada, welcome to Estacada. Just so happens to be around the time where this is happening. And I just don't understand how this is good for us at all, ever. The thing is, half the time, the attorney is over there and he's just looking down, not even looking at anybody when they're talking about their problems or their questions. He's looking down. Maybe he doesn't give a shit, but I don't know if anybody here knows it, but the General Assembly, the Petite General Assembly, 3 weeks ago was settled and formed, and in Clackamas County, and I'm part of it. And the thing is, if anybody is not good for this city, they can be replaced.
How many more do we have, Lauren? That's the end of the ones I have. Are there
Okay.
any online?
We do have one person online,
Okay, go ahead.
Bettina Bowles.
Okay, Tina.
Can you guys hear me? I can't tell.
We can hear
Yes.
you.
My name is Bettina Bowles. I am the school social worker at the elementary schools here in town, and next year I'll actually be the social worker for the whole district. And having just worked at the elementary schools, I worked with a handful of families, like more than one hand, who were experiencing homelessness. Families with kids, families from Estacada who want to stay in Estacada. Estacada has no resources for families that need housing. I'm a little disappointed to hear how people from my hometown, I grew up here, are talking so harshly about people who they don't fully understand the situations of, because the people that I was working with were trying really hard to get out of their situations. I don't think that they want to camp. I don't think anybody wants to camp in a park, much less in front of a fire station where everything's visible. Someone said that earlier. There's definitely more dignity at the timber park than there is right next to the fire station out in the open. Nobody wants to be homeless. Nobody wants to be camping. Nobody wants to stay in a shelter. And quite frankly, campgrounds and shelters are band-aids to a larger systemic problem. We need housing. We need affordable housing. We need places where people can go so that they can recover, so that they can take care of their kids, so that they can find a way to be the productive citizens that everybody at this meeting wants them to be. That's something that I think that the city should be focusing on. However, I do want a place that is going to be safe for these families when they come to me looking for help and they want to stay in Estacada. Their kids go to school here. They're friends with your kids' friends. And they need to know that they're accepted and loved by this community. And if they're listening to this city council meeting, right now they're not feeling welcome. So I just want to give a little bit of a reminder. I mean, I don't think that a campground is going to work. I don't think that a shelter is going to work. What we need is affordable housing. But I also just want people to remember that these are human beings who are part of our community that we're talking about. And yeah, like I said, they're your kids' friends that are growing up here. Please keep that in mind when you are taking this stand and talking about them.
We thank you for your comment. Thank you.
Please maintain quiet. Even while we're listening to somebody online, we need to be able to listen to them.
Okay, we're going to continue with the council meeting. We'll be to the portion that deals with this here in just a minute. So I'm going to continue on right now.
Okay.
The consent agenda is in front of you. You've all had a chance to read over the consent agenda. Are there any questions? No, can I have a motion on the floor?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, department and committee reports. I will start off with this end of the table. Is there anything to report tonight?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Joel,
No.
Jerry, Eddie?
No.
Jerry?
Nope. I'll have two next time.
All right. All right, then we have the city manager's
Sean.
report.
Paul have something to
Oh,
report?
Paul. Yeah.
Just checking in to make sure that that I'm coming through all right. Nothing to report on my end either. I'm up to the library board, but it's pretty much business as usual with them. Things are going very good.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we have the city manager's report.
Okay, I just want to share one thing really quickly. But we do have a concern to bring to your attention. It's about the increase, the summertime increase in water usage that we're seeing. And so our water usage has just about doubled between March and June. And because we haven't had that number of new homes going, getting certificate of occupancies, we can safely assume it's because of the outdoor watering that's going on. And so I want to just bring this up quickly right now. We'll come back with more information at the next council meeting and probably have it as an agenda item to discuss. But I just wanted to give a shout out there to anybody who's watering your lawns. If you can make sure that you're not watering sidewalks or driveways or watering too much so the water's running off. But just making sure, I think you have to, I was reading that 2 inches of water. So it's like watering twice a week, 20 minutes each time, just the minimal amount to keep it going. I know HOAs are kind of sometimes a little heavy-handed about keeping the grass green. And so we're going to be talking with them about ways to conserve. Clackamas River water providers can do outdoor water audits if people are having trouble getting their watering adjusted. But we do need to be as conscientious as we can to conserve water. And our engineer will have some additional information that we need to tweak the plant a little bit to make sure that it's running optimally. Because it was our highest day so far was 1.5 million gallons in one day. And the plant has a 2 million gallon capacity, but it had to run 21 hours, I think it was, to produce that water. So, listen, and then, so if we need to just, that means it's about 88% of the time it's taking to produce 75% of what its capacity should be. So we need to do some adjustments, but we'll be coming back. But anybody that can, it saves you money and it would help our water plant to run more efficiently.
And let's be clear, this is on the water processing, the part of the plant,
Yes.
not at the actual water plant. We're not a shortage of water.
No, we're not at a shortage. We have a 2.6 million gallon a day water right. And so our highest day that we've done so far, and it's much lower in the wintertime, but so far in the summer, our highest day was 1.5 million gallons. But our plant can only produce 2 million if it's running at its optimum. So it's not, we're not at capacity yet for the water right. But as far as what our plant can produce, and it just makes us a little nervous to think, well, what if everybody just did a little bit more, then it would be really hard to catch up. We've never not been able to catch up except for during the fires. And so but I just wanted to put that out there that it's something that's concerning us. We're looking into, and we're going to bring you more information about it. So thank you.
All right, now we're at that time that we just heard all the testimony in the room. The counselors, you all have a chance to speak on this issue now, if you wish to.
We have one resolution before that.
Oh,
No, that's already.
and I should have mentioned that too. I'm going to pull that resolution from this meeting regarding the rates for garbage and recycling. And we're going to discuss that in July when I have a little bit more information about yard debris.
Okay. All right, that said, now is your chance to speak on this issue that we were talking about tonight, that all these people are very passionate about. So, Joel, I'll let you go first.
I passed out a lot of information to you guys, and there's a lot of details here that you guys can look over. But I'm gonna spare a lot of that because I think we got a good idea what the people of Estacada want. And that's, they're willing to take the risk, which is not to change anything and say no to it. And so there's lots of information done here on why we shouldn't pass this as it is, because there's so many other options that we could go with. But I think there's a more simple solution. So I think we all know what that is.
Anybody over here?
Peter, if there were any legal actions taken against the city because we failed to follow a law that was passed, where do the reparations come from if we were to lose a lawsuit? Would it come from the city budget? Would it be an increase in taxes?
So if we don't pass if we don't pass a camping ordinance and, if 10 PM, I have no problem with 10 PM versus 9. I would have no problem with cameras. I'd have no problem with any of that. I understand that members of the community are very unhappy about this, and I get that. I mean, if you live in a city in Oregon, unfortunately, you're probably not happy about this issue. And I get that council's not happy about this either. And I'm not happy to be the most unpopular man in the room, though. If that's how it needs to be, that's how it needs to be. My job is to advise you on legal risk. The legal risk of your current camping, which is very common. All of my cities had something that was similar to what you had, which was a prohibition. The legal risk associated with that is that our sheriff's deputies have been told by the county council that they can't enforce that. So if you have someone putting up a tent in the middle of a park during the day and people call the police, and they would, the legal advice that the police have received from the county council, who's their lawyer, is that they can't take enforcement action. So I don't think that if we don't pass a new camping ordinance, I don't think the state would come in and try and fine us for not passing. My biggest concern would be if we don't have something that's in compliance with House Bill 3015, which all the people that are like, that's vague and it's wishy-washy and I don't understand what their standards are, I agree with. Like, it says reasonable. What does reasonable mean? All of us think we're reasonable, but we could come down with completely different ideas. Like, what does the word near mean? Like, these aren't clear and objective standards. So just so you know, like, I'm trying to work with them too. I think like there is a decent chance that if this law was challenged, part of it will be struck down because of that reasonableness standard. But I swore an oath to the Constitution and the rule of law, just like you
Point of
guys
order,
did.
Mr. Mayor, there was a different question asked and.
I'm sorry, like I need to give you advice so that you can make a reasoned decision.
Yes, can you ask? the
related to
question
your
that was
stuff.
asked of-
What's your legal risk? Your legal risk is you won't be able to move homeless that camp in places you don't want them to camp. That's your biggest legal risk.
Monetary thing.
I don't, there is no monetary fine for not doing a camping ordinance. It just says you have to have one by July 1st. It doesn't say if you don't have one by July 1st, you get fined 50 grand.
Okay, that's,
If you want to restrict it, you have to have one by July 1st.
okay, great. All right, we've got, Paul wants to speak. Let Paul speak.
Yeah, and I want to check in on this as well too. I know Councilor Licky said if we, the solution is don't change anything. But my understanding is come July 1st, everything changes anyway, and we need to react to that. So if I understand what Peter is saying there, that if we do not have something in place, if we do not set the time, manner, place, and set the restrictions on there with this ordinance, then if somebody comes in and sets up camp on city property, public property, then we will not be able to move them, period, under risk of lawsuit. And I get that there could be caps on things like some of our parks where we have no overnight parking, but we don't have that on all city property. If someone were to camp in the library, we would not be able to remove them come July 1st if we don't pass this ordinance. And I just want to check in on that and make sure I'm understanding that correct.
That might be.
So there's a separate statute that allows us with 72 hours notice to sweep a campsite. So if a group of people set up a campsite, and the deal with this ordinance is because it restricts it to a certain number of hours, a campsite would not be able to be set up. But if we don't have one and they set up a campsite, then with 72 hours written notice, we can sweep the camp.
Is there an exception to that rule?
The city of Eugene tried to do a 24
No,
hour
I'm
notice.
talking about in our state ordinances. Is there an exception to the rule?
So House Bill 3115 specifically specifically didn't address the 72 hours in sweep.
195-505 subsection 9A is what I'm referring to.
You want to read it?
The 72-hour notice requirement under this section does not apply when there are grounds for law enforcement officials to believe that illegal activities other than camping are occurring at an established campsite. In the event of an exceptional emergency at an established campsite, including but not limited to possible site contamination by hazardous materials, a public health emergency, or other immediate danger to human life or safety. Those are exceptions to the rule, which is primarily what they're concerned about. So again, there's an exception, correct? The 72-hour rule.
To the 72 hour in sweep, like if there's a public health emergency, yeah, you don't have to wait 72
Or,
hours.
as I said, when the grounds for law enforcement officials to believe that illegal activities other than camping are occurring at an established campsite.
Yes, so I would refer that to your lieutenant.
Well, that's the state law. I'm not. you
So
don't need a
that's,
response for it,
it's
state
his
law. Well,
department
I-
that interprets
I
that.
get that, but I'm reading the state ordinances.
Mhm.
I'm telling you what the state ordinances says is what she has to abide by. So there are exceptions to that rule, just so you know.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'd like to hear
Yeah, go ahead.
from our lieutenant. What do you think on that?
Well, sorry. Let me start off with, I probably am not going to give you a full and direct answer. And the reason why is I was speaking with our undersheriff today, and he would like to see a consistent application of these ordinances by all of the deputies across Clackamas County. And not just the deputies that are assigned to the cities, but our county deputies as well, right? So that essentially we're all on the same page. And so why I'm bringing that up is if there's no specific ordinance in Estacada, then it's going to be hard to be on the same page with the other contract cities in Clackamas County.
So let me ask you a direct question then. So you're contracted to our city and obligated to then enforce laws in our city, correct? According to our city ordinances and so on, correct? So if we
Yes.
have rules that are specific to some things that they do our rules when it comes to camping currently on our ordinances. From according to what our lawyer says, that you were instructed not to enforce those rules. Is that correct?
As it applies, yes.
As it applies. So therefore as it applies means that you're instructed not to enforce city ordinances as a contracted law enforcement agency for the city of Estacada.
A law enforcement officer in the state of Oregon can only enforce the laws that are available, that are in the books and enforceable. And so if we are, if our legal counsel tells us that, hey, we cannot enforce that because there's an issue with that particular law, or that we have exposure to a lawsuit if we enforce that particular ordinance or law, then that's not something that a deputy will enforce unless the sheriff directs us to do that.
That answered your question, right? We can move on. Okay. Hey,
Lieutenant Mendoza, if we were to put this ordinance into effect, does it give the CCSO more leverage to make people move along? Since it will cancel out our ordinance that we have now.
Yeah, essentially, by enacting an ordinance such as this, it builds a foundation for a deputy to be able to take action. Without this ordinance, it limits us, right? Where a deputy is only allowed to
Please be quiet so we can hear. Thank you.
and enforce the laws that are on the books.
So if somebody say we put this through, what happens if someone refuses to move the designated spot or leave the spot in the morning?
So what would happen in Estacada and throughout Clackamas County, the contract cities, is we would be asking that city employees contact these people and ask them to move along. If they're non-compliant at that point, essentially is their intent to violate the ordinance, then that's when a city deputy would be called to the location. A citation could be issued for as a violation. The steps for removal are not going to be immediate. An ordinance is a low level violation. That's like less than running a stop sign. What our deputies would do is work to find a solution. It's honestly, it's what we do, all day, every day. Work to find a solution to the issue. Now, whether we're trying to get compliance from the person, issue a citation, which would then give us some leverage in this situation. By having an ordinance, it also, as I said, kind of builds that foundation where it allows us to maybe take this to the next level of a crime of trespassing. If there are other criminal activities afoot, at the time when we're there issuing an ordinance violation or citation, then we could take action on those crimes as well. But the short answer is that removal may not be immediate. It may take days if there's notice that's required. Services may be offered, right? Again, looking for some sort of long-term solution.
So knowing that we may not pass something, state law preempts local law, there will be no restriction at all. So would it be more difficult to get somebody to move along?
Yeah, it does make things more difficult. At times, we can only do what's written into the law. So, yeah.
Please be quiet so we can
Okay,
continue
yeah, be
this.
quiet. Let us finish.
Yes, let's finish this discussion, please.
All right. So I think a lot of questions have been up. We've heard all the statements. Is somebody okay? So we got Mike.
Yeah. Peter, is there any reason that it's not currently an issue? We're trying to get ahead of an issue by creating this ordinance. Is there anything that restricts us from passing an ordinance in August or September? If that actually becomes an issue with people pitching tents and camps coming? Are we still going to be able to pass an ordinance later on? It just won't meet the criteria for the requirements of 3115.
I'm not aware of any other public health and safety law that says if you don't pass it after a certain date, you can't pass it. But this is what that says. So, generally, we refer that we believe a law is valid until it isn't. If a court were to invalidate House Bill 3115, obviously, we would have more flexibility. I think the safest course of action, and again, if people want to make it more restrictive, and I don't view this as an invitation, surrounding jurisdictions have looser laws than this. They have longer sleeping periods than this, and they have more places. So I do not view this as something that would attract people to the city of Estacada, but there are ways that you can make it more restrictive. But I think the safest course of action, if you want the sheriff's office to regulate it, the safest course of action is to pass an ordinance.
No, don't speak out of turn. Don't speak out of turn. You're done with your part right there.
Yeah, and this applies to public property. This doesn't apply to people's private property. They have their private property rights. That's a whole set of different tools that they can use in order to safeguard their property.
Excuse me, don't talk from the audience. Let's get through this. Paul, do you have anything more?
Just checking in to see if we do pass this ordinance today, if we choose a site today, is it possible if we find things aren't working as expected, and we want to move the site, can we change that? Can we change that site? Can we change where we choose, and still be in compliance with the ordinance?
Yeah, the way that almost everyone has read this law is there has to be a site in the city that's public property. But if it's clear that a site's not working for whatever reason, as long as there's somewhere else, then they can enforce the rest of the prohibitions.
Okay, does that answer your question, Paul?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
Jerry.
All
has a
right.
question.
Jerry.
So last meeting, we were asked if, or staff was asked if there's any way to cooperate with with Clackamas County to get these people to services that they need. So prohibit it in Estacada and then cooperate with Clackamas County. Was anything done with that? Was there any conversation had there?
I did reach out to the Clackamas County and other cities in Clackamas County, and I received a response from the county administrator that said there's no place in Clackamas County or Multnomah County that would be a shelter. We could just say, you can't stay here, but you can go there. We'll give you a bus ticket. But they're more than willing to help us with any community-led initiative. However, I do agree about being cautious about providing any kinds of services here because it would be so minimal that it would be, I fear that it would be more of a problem than a help for people. And so I don't know of any necessarily community-led initiative that they could support, but they are, I think they're understanding the dilemma that you're in. I did reach out to the Bybee Lakes Hope Center, which is it's not really a shelter, but it's a place where people who are experiencing homelessness can go and can get help. They don't do mental health or addictions, but they do help with housing and finding a job and got back on your feet if that's what's causing the homelessness. And so we are working with them on going through their process to be able to refer people to them. And so if that might fit some of the categories of people, especially as we heard from the gal from the school district. Although my main concern is just being able to manage the directions of the council and the priorities that you set for our community. I feel that having this ordinance that is as restrictive as we can make it, and if we need to edit it, we could take a quick break and then we could do some editing. We could do that, but I feel like having it in place so that we are able to manage where people might end up trying to stay. I feel that this would be better. And I also want to say that this is something that we deal with all the time. It's not, I know that a lot of people do see it, and there's several people here have mentioned things that they have observed in Estacada. I think the businesses do get, they see a lot. But we do manage it all the time. And you'll notice there's no camps set up here on an ongoing basis because it's something that we follow the priorities of the council and the community. And I feel like our deputies do a great job of working with them. They call on the behavioral health team if needed. Our public works guys and our code enforcement officer do a great job of addressing issues as they arise. And so I am concerned about not having any tools after July 1 to manage this, but we would still have our parks are closed at night. We have ordinances about littering and befouling and anything that's criminal, we could manage that. This would be one more tool to restrict it to only a certain area, not all over town. So that's my recommendation. And I know the city manager and the lawyer do not make the rules. City council will make the rules. But we are, along with Lieutenant Mendoza, are working to advise you on best practices that we are seeing.
Okay, and then the second question I have is, I guess for Peter, could we approve this ordinance with a sunset clause of like till August 31st? With the thought of we need to figure out something better. We need to figure out something that, is going to work for our community, but we're in compliance with the law, but with the sunset clause, give us, so it's frustrating to me that we're just doing this right now. I mean, former Councilor Dunsmuir brought this up over a year ago. And the last month we're talking about it. And that's really frustrating to me that
Councilor Dunsmuir talked about affordable housing.
no, she brought up House Bill 31. This House bill she brought up. She brought this.
Yep.
Okay, everybody
please
understand,
be quiet.
none of us want tent city in Estacada. None of us want that.
Please be quiet.
Please let him finish.
So we need to come up with a solution that works for this community. And could we put a sunset clause of 2 months and come up with a better plan, a better solution?
I mean, it's just, is there a city-owned parcel of property that would be understanding that it would be, they find somebody camping somewhere else in the city, like in front of the library, and they say, no, you have to move here. If there's a parcel of property that's city-owned, it could be anything. It's, staff tried to figure out, because we were looking at things like hardscaped, because it's easier to clean up. So if there's some other city-owned parcel, you could definitely use that.
Quiet, please,
Please.
from the
Your
audience.
comments, please. All right, so is that all you had to say on that?
So sidewalks are public infrastructure and they should not have tents on them. But they do, but not here.
Not here.
So if you don't want it here, then you would ban it from being on sidewalks, which our thing does, our ordinance does. Our ordinance bans fires. Our ordinance regulates the size that people can use. It has time restrictions. If other people have ideas, that's fine. I can't advise you to break the law, but I get your frustration.
I get you.
And
All
we
right.
do have, excuse me, but Lieutenant Mendoza is on a time schedule. And so if there's any more questions for him, if we could
There'll
address
be no
those in
more
the
questions.
next.
We're just gonna
Okay.
go straight to it here in just a minute. I'm gonna
Okay.
speak on this.
Okay.
Okay. I want to start at the beginning. I came here, I'll start all the way to the beginning. I grew up in California when I was a kid. So I was about 12, 13, and California was the big push to push homeless out of LA downtown. So they pushed them all to the outside area. So Long Beach became like downtown LA overnight. I couldn't even go to school. I had people waiting outside to beat me up just because. So this topic has been around for a very long time. California did this ages ago, and it's coming here now. And they want me as a mayor to stand up and say, right on, let's do it. I'm not. So let's just get that out of the way right now. I am not standing behind this. I will not do it. If Kotek wishes to come after me, my house is at the top, he'll take it. It'll save me a lot of my house payment. I will not sign on to this because this is a disaster waiting to happen, not because there aren't homeless. I get the compassionate part of this. I have seen them. I've talked to some of them in town. Yes, there are a few here and I would love to help them and I will help them the best of my ability, but I will not sell our city out to accommodate a bill that should have never passed, didn't pass here, right? So to that answer, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen on my day. All right. And if they take me out for that, so be it. And I just want you to know, this is your taxpayer money. So if a lawsuit comes through or something, there's a chance that we'll have to pay it. To understand that. Possibly we could and possibly should. We should be the first to do that. Yeah.
Before Lieutenant Steve.
Yeah.
Some time ago, we had problems in Eagle. Everybody's aware. And those who was there several times to advise them. There was an assistant DA. I want everybody to listen to me. There was an assistant DA. I asked him to define reasonable self-defense. And his answer to me was, if you have a problem in your driveway, run. I said, I'm 68 years old. I can't run. So he says, if something happens and you shoot somebody in your driveway, I'm coming for you. So everybody take that to heart, please. I will still protect my wife with my life. Absolutely. And so if that DA wants to come, he better damn well bring friends. That's all.
I can appreciate that. Order in this, I'm down to a vote. I want to vote on this tonight. I want to put this to bed once and for all. I don't want to revisit it. It's not going to change things. It's not going to get any better. The state's not going to get any better, but we're going to stop it right here. And if we have to face ramifications, so be it. I think everybody in this room is ready to take that on. If I'm seeing you right, and I think I am, then we are.
With you.
So let's put it to a vote right now. Can I get a motion on the floor?
How do you motion to kill something?
Well,
I'd like to make that motion. I'd like to make that motion. This is Paul.
Paul, go ahead.
I got to remind us all that I understand what the mayor is saying here. None of us like this. None of us do.
Paul,
This
we
is
don't
not
need a
anything
reminder.
any of us want to vote on.
You're making a motion.
I'm making a motion because we're a council and we work together as a council. The mayor doesn't
Quiet,
dictate things
please.
how they go, but here's the motion. I move to approve ordinance 2023-005, an ordinance amending the City of Estacada Municipal Code, creating Title 8, Chapter 8.40, camping activities on city-owned public property for those experiencing homelessness.
Say we're going to do a roll call vote on this.
We need a second. We need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, got a first and second. Roll call vote.
Counselor Hughes,
No.
Counselor Lidkey,
No.
Counselor McElroy,
No.
Counselor Prokop,
Yes.
Counselor Strobel,
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush,
No.
Mayor Drinkline.
No.
Motion fails.
Hey. Okay, quiet for just a moment. Let's get through this. We have the next citizen and community group comment. So if there's anybody that wishes to speak at this point, raise your hand because I don't have a form. I'm out of forms.
We have somebody.
Oh, do we? Okay, put online first and then we'll take you. Okay, Lauren Patterson, are you there? There's nobody there.
She's muted.
Muted.
There she goes.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, you there?
This is Drew Collins. I'm using my wife's phone, Lauren Patterson.
Okay.
Multiple things or a lot of things I've listening to this. One, Estacada strong. Two, on both wildfires, the MacGyver fire that happened last summer and the let's call it the Silver Fox fire. I put in countless ends of hours fighting those fires. I didn't ask for a return favor back. I got a federal forestry federal ticket for being in a level 3 evacuation area, putting my life in danger and also putting in first responders. I'll do it again. Hands in, hands out. I will do it again because one, I've been here for a handful of years providing and protecting this town. Two, the homeless camp. I do commercial and residential work. I work in downtown Portland. I deal with the homelessness, the needles, the drugs and all that day in, day out, 8 to 12 hours a day. If you bring in the homeless people, like everyone stated, it's going to get word out. Estacada, place to go. Go, go, go. The number one thing that I have a concern about, one is Estacada strong. Two, it's what about the kids? What about the children? You're going to have all the needles, all the drugs around. You're going to bring in narcotics and substance into this town, and it's going to be an easy way in, easy way out for kids and drug dealers to sell their stuff, their drugs. Like I said, I put in countless amount of hours during the MacGyver fire last summer and the Estacada fire 2 years ago. I got a federal ticket. I didn't fuss. I didn't cry. I didn't appeal it. I pled guilty. I paid the $2,000 fine for it. I am against it. When it comes down to it, as a taxpayer, who's paying that? Are we the Estacada people going to pay that? If we're allowing the homeless camp to come in, then as Estacada town people, we should be excluded on that type of taxpayer. What about the sewer? The city of Estacada sewage plant can't handle the sewage that's overwhelming it from the new developments off of Cemetery Road, Deuce Road, all of that. Now you're going to bring in all the homeless camps. That's going to overfill that. That's going to create so much more headache that as Estacada people, us taxpayers, we have to pay on top of that. The homeless people don't. They get a ticket. And it's like all the narcotics that Kate Brown passed.
Thank you, Lauren. Your time's up there, but we appreciate your comment.
No, this is bullshit.
That's a great way to end it. And you can go up to the mic now. I've already got a paper on you.
So I was a little harsh earlier, wanted to thank you for standing up and for listening to us because that matters in this city. And tomorrow I will have a new insurance agent.
All right, thank you for that. And we're going to move along with this. I appreciate all the comments. I know this was a hot topic. We're done with the questions. We've got so many. I got into this for all the right reasons. I know Wally County have you believe government doesn't care. Well, there are some parts of government that don't work for a paycheck, that do give a crap. I'm one of them. Okay, I work for you. You put me here. I swore an oath to you. I'm here. I will always be here. And I always think of you first. So never in the back of your mind should you be wondering, is he really about us or is he one of those Fruit Loops? That is not the case. I am there for you. So every day that you bring an issue forward, I'm going to listen to it. And if it makes sense, we're going to fight for it, and we'll fight to the bitter end. That's why you came here to live. That's why we have people moving in daily. It's because they believe in what we've done here. So let's not let them down, because they came here for a reason too, just like you, to get away from that. You know, we just got to keep doing it every day. So enough of my rant. Okay. I've already spoken on this, so it's councilor's report. We'll start off with you, Mike.
Just want to thank everyone for coming out. The last meeting we had, there wasn't very many people here, and we were trying to make decisions that were going to affect everybody. And I'm glad that everyone took the time on a weekday night to come out and participate in all the public comments. I agreed with probably about 90% of what everyone said. I'm glad that the ordinance didn't pass. The one thing I would say is that there was a lot of attacks on Peter being our attorney, and I've had an opportunity to work with him in several meetings, and I don't think that he is trying to do anything to harm our town. He's trying to give us legal advice to keep us out of a lawsuit, because that's his job. It's our choice to go against that. And tonight I voted to go against that. I may not agree with the ordinance that the city staff put a lot of work into, trying to keep us out of a lawsuit, but I've never felt like he didn't have the best interest of the city at heart. So I would say you don't necessarily have to agree with what he said, but attacking him personally, I didn't really appreciate that. And I'm glad that the ordinance didn't pass.
I think I said enough already, so I'll go from there.
Thank you guys all for coming out tonight. This is, like Sean said earlier, this is the most people I've ever seen in this room, other than Christmas, you know, the Christmas bazaar. It's the
I
only
think the
time.
road diet was the last one that was this big.
Yeah, but thank you guys all for coming out and sharing your opinions. And you know, I am glad that this ordinance did not pass, but I think that it wasn't the right ordinance for the situation. I think if we would have started working on it, you know, a year ago, a better solution could have been made. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, none of us want to see tent city in Estacada. I've lived here for almost 30 years. My wife's been here her whole life. I've raised both of my kids here. They both graduated from high school. They've never lived anywhere else. This is my hometown. I love it here. I love the people. You know, and I never wanted to see tent city in Estacada. So thank you guys.
I just wanted to say that I don't agree with the law that was passed by the Oregon legislature. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it was a misguided attempt to comply with the federal court rulings regarding anti-camping ordinances. I'm a strong supporter of the home rule, which allows local control in city government. I really appreciate all the public comments. I know everyone has strong opinions and feelings. Oregon law cancels our current camping ordinance, and now it feels like we will have no restrictions whatsoever, making our ordinance more lax than the new ones that are coming in to Portland. I hope that is not the case, but I just wanted to let you know why I voted yes, knowing that it would not pass.
So I see a full house tonight, and I think that that's awesome. I would have loved to have seen a full house months ago, years ago. So I'm really hoping that our community is really starting to pay attention. You guys need to be paying attention to what's happening at the state level. The federal level, because it affects us here, okay? Because what happens there, we get strong-armed into having to do. So I would encourage you, show up at meetings, pay attention to what's happening in the state Oregon legislature, what House bills are being passed, write your legislator, okay? Because we can only do so much here in our community. I am glad as the ordinance was written and presented to us now that it didn't pass. I agree with Councilor Tenbush. Perhaps if we had had more time to really restrict things, maybe something could have been done. But the way it was written, it was too nebulous. It left way too many doors open. So no, I was born and raised in Portland. I love that city. I loved it. I could ride the Max downtown. I could ride the Max to Lloyd Center and shop with my friends in high school. There is no way in hell I would ever let my kids get on the Max now. We moved out here for a reason. My husband works in law enforcement with Multnomah County. He deals with this daily. I know what goes on at the camps. I know what the Hope team with Multnomah County has to deal with. I understand it. I also am very compassionate towards it. So don't misinterpret my strong feelings for not being compassionate. We need to have other solutions than just simply throwing money at the problem. And that's something that the California's done, Oregon's done. It's failing miserably. So we need to have better solutions. So I'm encouraged by seeing everybody here tonight. I really hope that you continue to come to meetings and give us your input and feedback, and that you're this passionate about other issues and hot topics that come across our council. Okay, so with that, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I'm still here. I appreciate also everyone's comments tonight. I was out here writing them all down and listening. And I do thank you for chiming in and giving your points of view. I do agree it would have been very good for us to pull this in, pull other committees in before putting this ordinance before the council with the DEI, even the traffic and safety committee meeting, I think would have been a great benefit to crafting the ordinance as well too. I think not passing this brings up questions now and questions that we're going to need to address as a city as well. And maybe this is the point where we can right some wrongs and pull in the other committees to see what we can do as a city to address the changes that'll be coming July 1st due to House Bill 3115. But again, thank you to the city and to Peter for all the work put into this as well too, and look forward to seeing what we can do moving forward. Thank you.
Hey, you've heard from all the counselors. They're all passionate about what's happening here. They were all elected by you. But Charity here is right. You know, every time I have something major on the list, y'all show up. You're here. This room is full. I get that. You're passionate about this. But there are so many things dropping down from the state level to us right now. We're getting bombarded and we need help. I can do a lot from here. And don't think your mayor doesn't. But at the same time, I need help. I'm to a point where it's me against them. And we need to hear our voice there. I need to tell them no on a regular basis and mean it. But I need the people behind me because they're the ones that make the difference. So she's right. Show up in this room. Make a difference.
We want to help you. So put a piece of paper over there.
You got it.
And get everybody who wants to sign up.
You got it.
Ready to help you do things.
I'm ready. I'm ready because I'm tired of taking it. I can tell you.
I have a personal relationship with Senator Bond. I invited him to be here tonight, but I guess I got him too late for him to be here. The part of my people. He's very interested in what is going on in our town. He is our representative in the state senate. So with this going forward, keep me in the loop. You probably have a in with him.
I do.
Too.
I do.
Let's get him involved. He's willing. He's approachable. I got a hold of him just the other day and he said, well, let me call you. I said, well, I'll be away from my phone a little bit. So he called me right then. He was on his way into chambers because I was questioning on what kind of gun laws we had to, pander to once the Senate went back into full committee. And I could hear him walking. He kept me on the phone until he opened the door to go in the chamber. Yeah. That's how approachable this man is. I want everybody to know. Senator Bonham is a very approachable. He is there for us, believe me. This guy is good. He listens and he works it. He works it hard.
Hey,
right.
How much time and money did the city staff waste on this?
Well, I don't think we need to get into that here.
You
I'm gonna
actually
adjourn
pay me a
this meeting.
fixed amount per
Discussion
month,
after
so,
that.
yes.
We'll
Mayor
have
Drinkwine.
afterwards. So this meeting is adjourned.